I just happen to look down at my phone. I'm gonna give you another advantage of the MacBook Pro versus the iPad. If I'm out and about, my phone's getting ready to die and I'm low on battery and there's not an outlet anywhere in sight, I have a USB-C to Lightning. I can take that, plug it into my MacBook, plug it into my phone. I can charge my phone. I can't do that with the iPad Pro. A lot of people are asking themselves, should I get a laptop or should I get an iPad Pro? As we know, Apple has touted the iPad Pro as a laptop replacement. Is that true? Let's find out. Alright, so on my right, I have a MacBook Pro Retina. This is a 2017 model, touchpad, 13-inch, 256 gig i7, right? Then I have a iPad Pro, 12.9-inch, second generation, 256 gig. So my first question that I would ask is, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis? I have to say, spoiler alert, I use my iPad Pro probably 95% of the time. After I got this iPad Pro, I rarely ever pick the MacBook up unless, now what I do, I use the MacBook Pro for editing. I do all my editing for YouTube with my MacBook Pro. I have my channel, my daughter has a channel, and then we have a family channel. And so I do all my editing on the MacBook Pro. But can you do that on the iPad Pro? You sure can. If your number one priority, if your day-to-day job is editing footage, and I'm talking about heavy footage, 4K, tons of videos and things like that, I would probably suggest that you go with the MacBook Pro. It has its advantages, it has its disadvantages, but honestly, me as a full-time worker, I am a college student. I attend Howard University. I'm an acting major, and we take a lot of notes. Yes, as acting majors, we take a lot of notes. I always get the question, hey, you're an acting major. What do? You guys just study scripts and just do plays? No. Yes, we do that, but that's just part of it. And we take a lot of notes. So I was fortunate enough to get this iPad Pro probably about 9 months ago. And man, it's been a godsend. Like, you know, I have the Apple Pencil, I also have the Apple keyboard. And to be able to go into class, one, I've lightened up my book bag, okay? I have class every day. And while I'm taking classes, I always have different notebooks for different classes. So generally what I would find myself doing is, you know, Monday I would go to class, I would have notebooks, my notebooks for my Monday class in my book bag. Then on Tuesday when I get up, you know, I'm taking out, or Monday night before I go to bed, I'm taking out those notebooks and I'm putting in my notebooks for Tuesday. There have been some times in the past before my iPad where I would get to school and realize I rushed out the house in the morning and I forgot to put a certain notebook in to take notes. And I hate having to pull out a notebook for another class and take notes. So when I got this iPad Pro, one, I was able to take all those notebooks, not have to use them no more, and all I have to do is just worry about my iPad Pro, which is always with me anyway. I'm not going to get into like note-taking applications, but there are some great note-taking applications on the iPad. When it comes to the iPad Pro, let's talk about some of the advantages. I wish that I would have went with the 512. And the reason that I say it, I'm also a musician. I try to do music production. You could pretty much do almost anything with your iPad. Anything that you could do with your laptop, you could do it with your iPad. I mean, in the App Store, there's almost any application for what it is that you want to do. Now, let me give you a really good example. Last year at Howard, one of the plays, so every semester there's about 4 plays that take place, at least in the fall. And one of the plays I was in, but this particular play ran before my play. And so I was the sound designer for this particular play, which meant that I made beats for transitions. I also, for this particular play, there was a scene where they were in a club and they needed about 10 to 12 minutes of music where they wanted it to sound like an actual DJ, because in the play there was a DJ and they wanted it to actually sound like there was a guy DJing, scratching, effects, and all of that. And I did everything strictly in the iPad Pro. I used IMPC, and everything I did, I mean, I remember the first time I went to the rehearsal to actually just take a look at the play, to see the transitions and see what I could come up with. While I was sitting in there, while they were rehearsing, I came up with like one of the first transitions, and I said, hey, take a listen to this. The director loved it. I actually was able to, now the drawback, here's a drawback, okay? So I came up with this beat, and what I had to do was I had to save it and then I had to export it. But unfortunately, I had to get to a computer, sync with iTunes. Then basically, once I synced it, I was able to drag that file, and I was able to pull it off and email it. Now that was when I first had got the iPad, so I didn't understand it. But I would also upload it to the Files app, so I always had it. And it was great that I did, because after a few times of sending them music, they were like, you know, the format that it's saved in, which I can't remember off the top of my head. Sorry about that, I got a phone call. I can't remember off the top of my head what the file format was that is saved. But, you know, they reached out to me and they said, hey, can you send it to us in, oh man, I can't remember the format they wanted, but they asked me to send it in a certain format. And I was like, man, like, when they asked me, I was actually at school. I didn't have access to, or this particular day, I didn't bring my MacBook with me. And so I only had the iPad. And what I ended up doing was I did some research, and I found out that there's an app called File Converter in the App Store. This app is awesome. Like, you can pretty much take anything on your iPad. So what I was able to do was I was able to go into the Files app, share that particular beat to the File Converter app, and then I was able to convert it. And then right from there, it gave me the option to email it. So depending on how, well, the files were big, so I would upload it to Dropbox and then send them a link where they could download it. But everything was done within the iPad. I think the biggest inconvenience is that there are some things, again, that you have to unfortunately sync your iPad with iTunes to get things that you need. Aside from that, I mean, there's so much that you can do. So what I would say is this: if you are a person, you're looking, or you're trying to decide, should I go with the iPad Pro? Should I go with a laptop? This is what I would suggest. Find out what your everyday use is. Again, if you are a person that you're editing tons and tons and tons of film, let's say 90 to 95% of the time, like if that's your number one priority, it would probably be best to go with the laptop, a MacBook Pro, or you know, whatever your choice of laptop would be. But can you edit film on the iPad? You sure can. There's a wonderful app called Luma Fusion, and there are a ton of YouTube reviewers who I follow who have recently said that within the last 7 to 8 months, all their footage that you've seen has been strictly edited on the iPad Pro using Luma Fusion, because Luma Fusion, you can't edit 4K footage. So I've played around with it, and it definitely is possible. For me, I don't have the SD reader to import my footage from my camera to my iPad. So for me, I use one of the adapters for the MacBook Pro. I plug it in, import my footage from my camera into the MacBook, and then I edit everything on Final Cut Pro. Now, that's for me one of the drawbacks with the MacBook Pro is that there are 4 ports on the MacBook Pro, and that's 4 USB-C ports. Okay, so everything that you need, like if you want to use a peripheral, if you want to use a flash drive or a hard drive or something like that, you have to buy either one of Apple's adapters, or you can go on Amazon and probably find a third-party adapter. But that's something extra that you always have to carry with you. And there have been times that I have forgotten my adapter at home and was short, in a sense. I mean, I was able to email. I remember last semester we had a presentation that we had to do at class, and I did everything using Keynote, and I had it on my laptop. And when I got to school that day, I left my adapter at home, and not everybody has the latest MacBook that uses the USB-C, so it was hard for me to find an adapter. I was able to talk to one of my coworkers who supplied me with one, and I was able to get it done. But that's, to me, one of the drawbacks is that you have to go out and you have to get an adapter, and those adapters are, I think the Apple one is like $70, $75 or something like that. So so that is a plus and it is a disadvantage, and I'll say why. Again, I have a 256 gig iPad Pro. I wish that I would have went with the 512, but even in saying that, for the 9 months that I've had my iPad Pro, I currently right now have 133, almost 134 gigs of storage left. I take a ton of notes. I have tons of video and photos in here, and I have 130, almost 134 gigs of storage left. I'm getting ready to go into my 3rd year now at Howard. I mean, take a ton of notes. I use Notability, which allows you to record and take notes at the same time. So when we talk about storage, you know, the more videos that you upload onto your iPad, you know, if I edit a video and when I finish I have 54 gigs, who knows how big that file size was when I originally went to import it. So you can imagine, if you're doing videos a lot, you're going to fill your iPad up pretty quick. Yes, you can go in and delete them and things like that, but the advantage with the MacBook is that I have like 2 hard drives, and my hard drives are dedicated to, I have one hard drive that has my Final Cut Pro library, and then my other hard drive is dedicated to, I have the A6300, I have the A5100. So I have 2 folders on that, one for pictures and one for videos within each folder, and I put all my videos and stuff on that. And then, you know, when I'm done, I eject my hard drive. I'm not taking up space on the MacBook Pro. If I want to just leave, and let's say at work I use a iMac 27-inch, if I wanted to take that or view that footage at work, I could just take my hard drive with me, plug it into my machine at work, and, you know, do what I need to do. Whereas with the iPad, I can't really do that. Yes, there are some like flash drives. I know like SanDisk has a flash drive that you can put in, and you have to put some software in, which I have that. And for me, I haven't used that in like over a year because it's extremely slow. So, you know, I know that one of the guys that I follow, he's a music producer, but he talked about how, you know, the last few months, all he's done is he's produced everything or edited everything on his iPad, and he has the top file storage tier for iCloud. That's one way to go, or whatever the case may be. If you are a person that you edit here and there, but your main thing is you're surfing the web, you're writing papers for school, you're taking notes, you want to play games and things like that, man, I would say, especially for a college student, or really anybody, go for the iPad Pro. I promise you, when I got this iPad Pro, I almost immediately stopped using this. You have the keyboard, you can type, it's amazing. And like I said, you can find almost any application that you need within the App Store. Case in point, the File Converter app. You can use that to convert almost anything. And then straight from the iPad, I'm able to either email it off, depending on the file size, or upload it to Dropbox and send off a link, or Google Drive, whatever your choice of preference is. If you are in school, or even if you're not in school and you do a lot of writing, or you do spreadsheets, you have the option of Microsoft Word, you have Microsoft Excel, there's Microsoft PowerPoint. Or if you're not a Microsoft guy or girl and you want to use the Apple, you have Pages, you have Keynote, you have Numbers. I have all of those on here, and from time to time I use either or, just depending on what I want to do that day. But you can find almost anything that you need on the iPad, and I think it's great. I have a Surface Pro here, and there are a lot of things that I really like about the Surface Pro. Now, I don't use the Surface Pro, my wife uses it. There are a lot of things that I really like that I would love to see implemented on the iPad. There is a USB drive there where you could plug in a flash drive or a hard drive. I like that, yes, Apple has the Files app, but it's not really a dedicated Files app. It's things that you can upload and things like that, but it's not the same as the Surface Pro. And I'm not going to get into that. Maybe later on I'll do a comparison of the Surface Pro and the iPad Pro, because that is another option for people, especially like if you are a big Windows user. The Surface Pro is a really nice, I was about to say tablet, but it's a really nice tablet / laptop. And it has its own little pencil. And the great thing about it is you don't have to charge that pen, stylus, whatever you want to call it. Whereas with the iPad, the Apple Pencil is great. Taking notes, great. But there have been those times where I've gotten into class and I went to take notes and my pencil was dead. And granted, I can take the pencil, I can plug it into the iPad and it'll charge it. And honestly, charging it, 10-15 minutes, and I pretty much almost have a full battery, and then I can take notes. That can be inconvenient at times. But aside from that, I love this iPad. And if right now, if I wasn't fortunate, like for me, the MacBook Pro is a work computer. It was given to me by my job. Yes, I use an iMac 27-inch. And this was for when I go off to meetings, because I have a ton of meetings weekly. When I go off to meetings, I can take this with me when I have interviews. But honestly, at this point, I take my iPad everywhere I go. Even when I take both to work, I'll take the iPad with me a lot of times, because if I want, I can sit and write. If I want, I can sit and type. So if I had to do it all over and I only had a choice to buy the iPad Pro or the MacBook Pro, which one would I go for? Honestly, for everything that I do, even with the YouTube videos, I would honestly purchase the iPad Pro. The only difference that I would do if I could do it all over is I would do the 512. I'm hoping that at some point, I'm sure that Apple doesn't want to try to kill their MacBook line, but I'm hoping that they begin to make this more of a, especially since they touted to replace a laptop. I mean, here's another thing. I'm gonna give you another advantage of, I just happen to look down at my phone. I'm gonna give you another advantage of the MacBook Pro versus the iPad. If I'm out and about, my phone's getting ready to die and I'm low on battery and there's not an outlet anywhere in sight, I have a USB-C to Lightning. I can take that, plug it into my MacBook, plug it into my phone, I can charge my phone. I can't do that with the iPad Pro. That's, again, I would say an advantage over, but not a lot of people, well, yeah, that itself is one of the advantages of the MacBook Pro is I could plug this in and charge it. Now, I don't have the SD reader that Apple has, so I don't know if you could plug that in and then plug a USB to Lightning in and charge your phone. I would assume that that would work, but I can't say because I've never tested it. And that's something next on my list to get, is that SD reader, so that I could begin to, if I want to, import footage into the iPad. But aside from that, you can't go wrong getting an iPad Pro, especially, like I said, if you're a college student. There's tons of apps for anything that you need. One of the things that I do, again, when I got my iPad Pro, especially being in college, most of your textbooks you can get online. You can even buy them online, and then you get emailed a PDF form of the book. Well, what I do a lot of times is, what I've done the last year, everything that I needed school book wise, PDFs, Bort, got the PDFs. And I love the fact that at times when I need to take notes, when I'm doing homework, when I'm doing papers, I can pull up a split screen. I can have my book here. I can highlight, do what I need to do. I can take and drag over a section up if I need to and put it in the notes. There's just so much that you can do with the iPad, and I can't wait to see what they do with the software. We have the Mac OS, we have iOS. I would really love to see like an iPad OS that differentiates this from the iPhone, because in some sense, some people look at it just as a bigger iPhone. Now with iOS 11, there is, you have the dock now, which is something similar to like Mac OS, and so you can have your dedicated apps down in the dock, which I like. But I would love to just see them begin to separate the iPad from the iPhone. I would love to see a way that we could have a dedicated Files app where you could locally use it if you are in the market and you can only have one. Unless you are just editing film constantly, I would say go with the iPad Pro. You're gonna save yourself a ton of money in the long run. Here I am again, almost a year in. I have a 256 gig iPad Pro, and I have 133 gigs of storage left as I go into my new year. And I use this iPad Pro every day. And you know what? After I'm done being an adult and after I'm done being a student, I wind down and I play games. I have a ton of games on here. It's just so much that you can do. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this review. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, leave them down below. I will make sure to get back to them. Matter of fact, I'm going to do a giveaway too. So if you saw my last video, and if you haven't, go see my best iPhone 10 cases review. If you saw that video, you saw that I had a out-of-box Symmetry that I bought for my daughter that I've probably used twice. It's pretty much new, it's fresh. I should have had it with me. Forgive me that I don't. But if you want that, leave a comment below saying, hey, I want that out-of-box Symmetry. And I'm going to randomly choose a user or a winner a week from the upload date of this video. And if you're in the US, I'm going to take care of shipping everything, and I'm going to ship that off to you. So again, if you have any comments, questions about the iPad Pro versus the MacBook Pro, leave a comment or question below. And then also, if you want that out-of-box symmetry case, leave in the comment section, hey, I want that out-of-box, or pick me, or whatever you want to say. All right guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I am trying to become more consistent with getting video out. I love tech, I love reviewing, and hopefully I can get more content out, review more content, because it's something that I love, something I love sharing. I do this, I've been in the IT field for almost 13 years now. My background is really Apple. I have Apple certifications. I have been a senior Mac technician, lead Mac technician. So again, I love Apple, but I love tech. So keep in touch, like and subscribe. Subscribe to my channel, and hopefully I can put out things that you guys really like.